Across the northern part of the country, there's a scourge threatening Ghana's food security and ripping off the state of its badly needed revenue.
Because of the bad road, that is why we are sending it to Togo.
All our produce, we don't want it to go there, but we are forced to send it because of the nature of our road. Our road is very, very, very bad.
Our road is no good. People are with money Accra because of the road. They don't want to come here and buy the things and they can't send it because on their way going, it will be suffering. So they don't like it that way. And for them, their road is good.
Immigration and customs officials are compromised.
We and the borders are put heads together. We pay the immigration 1 bag per 50 pesewa. The custom 1 bag per 2 cedi. And then there is Togo police too there. And the Togo, the custom also there. All of them are taking money from us.
So before you get into Togo, you pay 4 destinations before you can get there. So roughly you can pay like 2,000 to 2,500.
The deplorable roads have become a growing nightmare that haunts residents each day. All it takes to experience this is a drive on the breath-choking roads of Chereponi and its environs. But the poor state of roads in Chereponi is not entirely the main focus of this piece. There's another side of this story, one that is worrisome, one that the duty bearers have turned a blind eye to. It is the blatant plundering of the nation of its badly needed grains to neighboring countries in broad daylight. In the first quarter of this year, the president placed a restriction on the exportation of maize, rice and soya beans. Export of all grains must be accompanied by an approved export permit letter duly signed by the trade minister. But enforcement of this directive has been a challenge, given room for the smuggling of these grains out of the country. In this edition of Hotline Documentary, Joy News investigates how over 166 million cedis worth of maize, rice, millet, soya beans, cowpea and sesame are smuggled to neighboring Togo and Nigeria last year alone, using the Chereponi district as transit. The Joy News investigative team will be speaking to truck drivers, farmers and middlemen who aid the massive grain drain of the north. Chereponi is one of the 6 districts of the Northeast region, carved out of the Saboba Chereponi district in the late 2000s. The area still remains one of the deprived rural settings in the northern part of the country. But this is not the major source of worry for the over 80,000 inhabitants who are predominantly farmers. It is rather the dusty, bumpy and unmotorable stretch linking Chereponi to Yendi and its environs. It is a difficult decision to make each day for many of the residents here. It is either one endures the misery of commuting on the roads to guarantee their survival or stay back home while their economic sustenance crumbles. One of such residents who has accepted the former is Kwame Kweku. But for the demands of his job, he would have avoided the frequent use of the road.
It's very terrible when traveling on this road. In fact, sometimes when you want to travel, because of the bad nature of the road, it makes you just stop.
Traveling in vehicles, I attempted once here. It was even difficult trying to hold your breath in the dust-filled vehicles. How is the experience for you like?
I'm using the vehicle from Tamale to Chereponi every day. In fact, there's no day we'll come here and we'll not go to filter shop to go and maintain our vehicles. Sometimes especially from Wapuli coming to Chereponi, In fact, Masa, that one day we can't say about it.
This basket of frustrations carried by the thousands of residents in his district is summed in Kwame's bitter accounts. He had to sleep in an open space for 3 days when the vehicle he was traveling in broke down on a Chereponi road and got stuck in a gully. It is an experience that gets him emotional anytime he recalls.
Are we not the Ghanaians? Or is Chereponi not part of Ghana?
Kwame is not the only indigene whose emotional spots are hit hardest on the subject. For Bashiru Ali Danki, a resident in his early 40s, it represents the litany of broken promises made by the political class anytime election approaches. He believes the duty bearers care little about their plight.
Our road here as well. When you travel, it's like you're going to war. If you are not come back, you will not have life again, because our road all is fuel. So our governor is not mind us. We don't know either we part of Ghanaians or we part of Togolese. We don't know.
There is potholes, and stones which are affecting our cars, our tires, our springs.
So now, when you buy the soya beans, where do you take it to now?
Now we send some to Ghana and we send some to Togo.
Why do you send it to Togo?
Because of the bad road.
Meet Imoro Mustafa. He is the chairman of the cargo truck drivers here in Chereponi. He's part of the drivers who transport tons of soya beans to neighboring Togo. I caught him in the process of loading truckloads of these grains badly needed to feed the local poultry industry. He says their activities must be blamed on the poor roads and not their desire to make profit.
We and the borders are put heads together. We pay the migration 1 bag per 50 pesos. The custom 1 bag per 2 cedi. And then there is Togo police too there. And the Togo, the custom also there. All of them are taking money from us.
But these monies, do they give you receipt?
No, they don't give us any receipt.
But what explanation do they give for taking 50 cedis and 2 cedis from you on every bag?
Because they say it is their duty to bring the load back. The immigration said they will bring all the road down for them to church in the car. And because we don't want to pay twice, that's why we just pay them 50 cedi and they get our way to go. The custom people, they said it is their duty to take 2 cedi. The money from Togo is better than what we get in Ghana. But they are buying it at a good price and they are buying it more.
How much do they pay for a bag of soya?
At first time they bought 10 cedi and now they bought 12 cedi.
Traders in neighboring Togo, Nigeria and Benin make juicy offers for Ghana's soya beans, rice and maize among others. A bag of soya beans goes for 12 Ghana cedis outside the borders of Ghana.
The road is our major challenge because after production we need markets, and there's good markets down south, let's say Kumasi, Accra, Techimai, Takoradi. There are already markets, but the road is affecting us greatly because we cannot transport our produce to those destinations. So therefore, it's affecting our production.
We do understand that because of that, you are looking for alternative market in neighboring countries like Togo, Benin, Nigeria. Share more with us on this.
Yeah, they have been supportive to us. This neighboring country has been supportive to us because after production, we cannot transport our produce into the country because of the poor or deplorable nature of the road. So they sometimes come here and then buy from us because the road from here to the place is closer and they have better route than us.
I've come to meet Fuseni Munkaila, who is a farmer in Chereponi. He produces maize, soya, sesame, and millet. He has been in the business for a decade. Like many farmers here, he is worried about the poor state of the roads. He says it is more expensive to transport their produce to local markets than neighboring countries.
Unexpected expenses occur. So the amount that you expected at the end, I didn't get the expected amount because unexpected expenses occur. Food, water, and transport to go and bring the mechanic and sending him back. Then the cost of mechanization. So from that day, I swear not to transport my produce from here inside Ghana again. And that is why Togo, Benin become alternative market for us.
In terms of losses, if you use...
So that's our latest Hotline documentary, Broken Chain, painting a picture of the situation we find ourselves in when it comes to preserving the grains here for local use. You may be wondering, what's the bother? Why should this matter to me? Well, it should. You may be aware that soya bean especially is an essential ingredient when it comes to the production of feed for poultry and other livestock. So consider all that you have to pay for eggs now, the increase. It's all because there's more that's going into producing the feed, and so you need to pay more. And that's why government decided to place this temporary ban, but clearly there's a problem. And we're having a conversation this morning. Joining me are Gideon Abuaji, he's with the Tema Dragon Inter-Agro, and Kwesi Nyameche with Vesta Oil Mills Limited. We've got Victor Pong, who is the president of the Poultry Farmers Association, and Thomas Bello, chairman, the Soya Value Chain Association. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the program. Let me start with you, Mr. Bello. Clearly, this is not new to you. You are aware of the problem and how it's affecting local demand here in Ghana. You've seen this particular documentary. What's your initial reaction?
Hello, thank you very much. My initial reaction is that I expressed some shock and surprise about the attitude and behavior of our fellow farmers in the north in Chereponi, because this business has been on for the past 20 years. And then the road has not been better than what we have today. All of a sudden, they are using the road as an excuse to justify their decision to smuggle this important raw material for us across the border. And it's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. We are asking them to think hard, to stop what they are doing, and let us have the soybeans here so that we can keep our industries working, and the poultry farm industry will also survive. They are the same people who are complaining about a high cost of eggs, and yet they don't know they are the source of the cost.
Mr. Bello, so
yes.
these farmers tell us the bad roads is a challenge. You dispute that. Mm-hmm. So what at all do you think will cause these farmers to export? And they even talk about the extortion from some officials. And so they go through a certain process. Officials, are complicit in this whole issue. Why do you think they'll go through that pain to export if it is easier to bring it down south?
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Bello?
Yes, I'm listening. They make more money. It's a greed part of it. They are making about 3 times what they will make in Ghana. When we were buying these things, they were supplying us and we were buying from them. We were at the price of less than 200 cities. And the foreigners will come in to increase the price. So we kept up with the increase in prices up to a level where the poultry farmers will not afford it again. But these people are still coming and giving them more money. If they are complaining about roads, what about those who even take them from Tamale and come across Chereponi to go to Togo? And I'm telling you, in the old days, if the road was even so bad, they used tractors to transport these things to nearest town like Yendi where trucks, the roads are very good all the way to the rest of the country. So the roads are no excuse at all. The only excuse is the greed and the satisfaction of that greed to make more money. Most of them are benefited from the government subsidy through the planting for food and jobs. Now, the purpose of creating the jobs are being defeated by their attitude. Most of our factories have been closed for the past 2 years. We have thousands of workers who are out of business, and all those stakeholders who are involved in our business are out of business. And now the poultry industry is collapsing, or almost even collapsed.
Talking about the poultry industry, let me bring in Mr. Victor Pong. He is the president of the Poultry Farmers Association here in Ghana. Mr. Pong, thank you for joining the program. So I'm looking at an article on the Ministry of Food and Agri's page, okay? And you are named as one of the people on the soya bean export permit committee. So we know that, yes, there's a temporary ban, but there's some permission given in special cases, and you're part of the committee that's responsible for giving the permit. What has your committee found to be the major cause? The farmers say it's the roads. They cannot bring the product down south. Mr. Bello disagrees. He thinks it's greed that is pushing them. What have you found to be the problem?
Thank you very much. On that committee, all the panel members are on the committee. But I can tell you that we've not gone far since the committee was inaugurated. We are in the processing stage, and we've not gone to the extent of giving permits and other things for people to either export or what. But you see, it is through our agitation that the government instituted the ban on the export of maize and soya. Because basically, if there is no maize and soya, there is no poultry farm. And all the yield we get from our farmers are exported. The maize are exported, the soya beans are exported. Mr. Bello said their factory has been idle for the past 2 years, which is true. And you see, soya play a very important role in the production of poultry, the supply of the protein need for the birds. So if you don't get soya, you don't get poultry. Now, we talked and talked and talked until finally they came out with this ban. However, before the ban came, the poultry is almost collapsed. So I think we have to be up and doing and make sure that we are developing an industry to help or impact the economy of the country. Nobody is going to do for us. We have to do it ourselves. Because if the government injects money in planting for food and jobs, it is the local people who are supposed to benefit and not the foreigners. So if money has been injected or given to the farmers in a form of subsidy, and they in turn send the products to the neighboring countries, what have we done? In the first place, we have subsidized their products, and secondly, we are creating more jobs over there and creating unemployment in this country. So at least we should have a second look at whatever we are doing. We have to consider poultry as one of the industries that can impact the economy of this country. And I tell you, poultry alone along the value chain can create 1 million jobs whilst we continue to talk of unemployment in this country. So at least we must be up and doing.
So this law we are talking about, the Export and Import Restriction of Soya Bean Regulation 2020, was passed on the 15th, and it came into force on the 22nd of December 2020. Now, your committee was set up to efficiently manage and regulate the export of soya bean. I want to know, I'm not given the date here as to when this particular committee was set up. When exactly were you set up, sir?
It was somewhere in January.
This year?
Yes.
Okay, and you're saying
the committee was inaugurated.
Okay, and you're saying since then, there's no actual work the committee has done?
Not exactly. We've had about 2-3 meetings, all in a processing stage. Okay, so we were supposed to have a meeting, but that meeting has never come on until we heard that there has been a ban on the export of maize and soya. Even this thing, while the committee was there, we should have been there to dialogue and see how far it's going, because the ban is even a temporary one. And it will be lifted around September. That is where the new maize too will be coming. So it means that if the ban is lifted, people can still export the goods. I hope you are getting me. It's a temporary ban. And we have to have a second look. Are we having a total ban for the sake of the local industry? Or we are going to do a temporary ban just to allow people to get opportunity to export when the new season comes? I hope you get my point.
I do. So, I mean, just to help our audience understand, this particular committee is made up of the Chief Director of the Ministry of Trade.
Yes.
There's a Director of Plant Protection and Regulatory Services Directorate.
Exactly.
Director of Projects at the Ghana Export Promotion Authority. There's a Chief Revenue Officer at the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority. And this is important because we heard the farmers talking about how they have to bribe some officials in order to export their products. And there's also the head of the Food Division of the Food and Drugs Authority. Then there's the National Chairman of the Poultry Farmers Association, who we are speaking to now, you, Mr. Opong. And you are a member also of the soya bean producers. And there's a national best farmer, Alhaji Mashood Mohammed. So clearly, this appears to be a team of experts when it comes to this. And I'm just a bit surprised that aside the 3 meetings, nothing concrete has happened. But let me bring in Mr. Nyameche, who is with Vesta Oil Mills. So we've heard how other factories are suffering as a result of this. Clearly, this appears to be another case of more talk and less action, because as we follow the story, it gets worse by the day.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Nyameche.
Yes, please. Good morning to your listeners.
Good morning.
And good morning to my colleague panel members. Yes, it's true. I think in Ghana we talk more than what we do. I heard the guy in the documentary saying the road is not good. They had to go to maintain their vehicles and all that. It was quite interesting. Are they telling me that cement and other things are not getting to them? They are building. Don't they get cement from the southern part of Ghana to their place? It's just mischief. You see, the whole point is, in this business, it's like you get me today, I get you tomorrow. We have helped survive the industry until recently when the shea business collapsed and the cashew business collapsed, and everybody has turned their attention to soya. And these people wouldn't even sell to us. You were talking about the permit issue. Listen, the committee has met. I'm an ex-official member of the committee. We've met like 2-3 times. The decision we took at the last meeting was for us to go on a campaign to sensitize farmers and the aggregators before we roll out. We never met again. We didn't hear anything again.
But Mr. Nyameche, do you think, just please permit me to interject, but do you think this is a case of sensitization? There is a law that bans...
No, I'm coming. I'm just building up a point.
Okay.
That was what we agreed on. But we were pushing for the implementation of the act, and the act is to regulate, not even to ban completely. It's to regulate export. That to the point that local companies will always get raw material to process. But all we heard was minister has announced a temporary ban on soya and maize, which was okay for us. The next day, we were called that some people want to export some soya. And some of us were called. we had a meeting only for us to hear that Ghana has excess of soya, so it's been exported, which is a stab in the back. Meanwhile, our companies are shut down. So I don't know. I mean, like you said, we talk more than we do, and most of the time we can't take people for their word because they don't seem to want to help the situation in the country.
Okay, so back to my question about the last meeting the committee had, which you mentioned that the decision was to sensitize these farmers, right?
That's right, yes.
Okay, so back to my point. My point is this. The minister has announced the ban. There are people who are engaged in what is now considered to be an illegality. They are not even using unapproved routes. They are going through approved routes, bribing their way through to neighboring countries. What will your suggestion be then? We go the sensitization way or we go hard on enforcement?
My opinion would be to go hard on the enforcement. We have to enforce the law and to make sure our economy thrives. It's not only Ghana that is implementing such laws. If you go to Argentina and elsewhere in Indonesia recently, they all, when they feel they need some locally, they ban export. Why can't we do the same in Ghana? Or they regulate export. Why can't we do the same in Ghana? We can do the same. Because, listen, government is always, government upon government are talking about creating jobs. The private sector is the engine of growth. When people like us, went hard to find monies to build up plants, which cost millions of dollars, and you let the plants sit idle, how are we going to pay our debt? So government should be up and doing. They shouldn't just be talking. I think the talk is just too much.
Let me bring in Mr. Gideon Abuaji, CEO of Dragon Farming Limited. So, unfortunately, it's not only our grains that are being exported out of this country. We also know that fertilizer is smuggled. We heard the Agric Minister talk about that, how sometimes people use donkeys and all to cart these products to neighboring countries. Why do you think we are having a major challenge when it comes to preserving what we produce, especially when there is a local demand for it?
Well, thank you, and good morning to my colleagues on the line. It's sad. It's sad that we do not, as a country, want to go into industrialization, and that means that taking the primary products and processing them, adding value to it, so that we can create more jobs. It's sad that all the effort that we put in as businessmen, as industrialists, just to make sure that we create more employment in this country. It looks like our policymakers are really not interested in it, but rather we want to continue with either importation or exportation. We don't want to process anything in this country. And it's a sad reality. And we have already made the investments into these plants. And as you know, you go around the country and there are a lot of plants that currently are not in production, not only in soybean, but in other production areas. It's all as a result of some of these things. I do not understand why we produce raw material and there are industries or companies in the country that are creating employment by adding value to those products. And yet there is that appetite for exporting it. And besides, you have state institutions, state agencies that are supposed to do what is right, now are collaborating with people to do what is wrong. So then you ask yourself, are we living in a jungle? Because these are institutions that are mandated to see through that laws that are made in the country are enforced, especially at our borders. Unfortunately, from this documentary, we've realized that some of these state agencies have been compromised.
Mr.
And they are
Amaje,
complicit in these troubles that we are having.
The last time you were in my studios, in our studios here, my colleague Benjamin Akakpo was talking to you. At the time, we were talking about foreigners going into the markets and purchasing from the traders directly. Now there's another leg to this where our farmers are illegally exporting the products. You said that if the story didn't change soon, you'd have to totally shut down your processing factory. What's the status of your factory now?
My factory hasn't shut down, but we are producing at a very low capacity, like I said the last time I was at your studios. And let me also comment on this foreigners going onto the market. It's still happening. It's still happening. And now what they are doing is that they are routing the product through Togo. So it comes in through Togo as products purchased from Togo, and they are exporting it. So it's not something that has stopped.
Sorry, let me try to understand what you mean. So they purchased the soya beans from Ghana and then take it through Togo as though they were importing from Togo.
Exactly.
And I'm not getting the picture well.
And then bring it back to the south.
Okay.
You know, through the Chereponi end, through the Yendi end, they get the products through there, route it down south to Lome, and then they come through Aflao to Tema. I sit here and I see a lot of trucks coming in.
So, I mean, I'll bring in our other guests, but let me just find out this from you before I move on. So you have a factory. You're waiting for the soya beans to come down south for you to purchase. Have you attempted going to buy directly from the farmers? And what has your experience been?
We have agents in the north.
Okay.
You know, this business is very broad. We cannot do everything. So we use agents who go to the farm gates and aggregate and then send it down south. I think I need to put this thing in perspective so that we all understand. Current soya bean variety in the country cannot be produced at the south. There's a certain altitude that the soya bean has to be produced, and that falls within the northern belt. That's why most of the soya that is produced in Ghana currently is produced in the north. But we have aggregators who go to the farm gates. And the problem we are also having is you go to the farm gate and there is these foreigners also wanting to buy the same product. And when you've made a very good offer which you can use for farming, they up it 1 city, 2 cities. And then when you want to level out, they up it again. So it's like we are competing for a very small products.
Like they're auctioning it to the highest bidder.
Thank you. And yes, and it's not being done fairly, because even in auction, there are limits that products prices can be increased to in a day. And if you offer the same price just like the foreigner is offering, they will offer the products to the foreigners. I don't know why. I don't know why. And this is experience that most of our colleagues can attest to. If you offered even higher price, sometimes slightly higher price than what the foreigner is offering, they will still give it to the foreigner.
Let me find out from Mr. Bello, chairman of the soya value chain. Have you encountered this in your work where you'd have to bid to buy soya beans, but a foreign competitor gets his way through?
The farmers sometimes play us against each other, and they use the foreigners. They will tell you your price you've agreed to pay, somebody that is prepared to pay higher. Are you prepared to catch up? And you don't have a choice. If you think it's within the means you can afford, you agree. He goes back, he doesn't come back, you go back to the next person. So Mr. Bello says, you pay me 10 cities. So if you can give me 12 cities, I'll give it to you. And the person accepts to give that kind of money. And then he continues like that. They play our heads against each other, kind of a price speculation. So that's the problem.
Mr. Bello, so in this whole value chain, it appears the farmers have a lot of power, and they determine where the product goes to. How do we change this? Yes, they farm the beans, but in other jurisdictions there are regulations that allow for locals to, you know, be put above competition from foreigners.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Bello. Yes, I'm listening to you.
Yes.
I'm asking how we can reduce this power, sort of, that the farmers have when it comes to the soya bean product.
Yes, the only way is to enforce the regulation, the law, that you will not have the gas to give attempt to export illegally. Because these farmers, they have to change that. I remember 15 years ago, there was a conference, pre-harvest conference, organized by USAID in Tamale, and we all agreed to a price. They even play a major part in deciding the final price for the soybean. But they never, when we leave the place, they will never sell it to you at that same price. Like I was saying earlier, they will play our heads against each other. They would maneuver to sell the commodity to you at a higher price than we all agreed. And their mode or their attitude hasn't changed. It's actually the same habit. So you have to have a good question. How can we change this attitude? It's a thing we have to sit down with them. You have to let them know that if they don't come deal with us and they decide to do the things they are doing, the way they are doing things, it will, as long at the end of the day, we'll go against them.
So,
because, you know, some of us have started thinking, some foreigners have come here already. For American Soybean Association, Society, they're interested in working with us to bring in soybean. And if they are not careful, we allow them to agree with them to assist us. Then the farmers one day will come back to us and say, we are not buying their soybean. And it won't be our fault.
So, hello? Yes, I can hear you say. So, let me put it this way. The farmers want more profit. So you're going through the other route. Some of our guests have referred to this as greed. But let me find out from you. When you go to purchase the soya bean product, if you were a farmer, would you sell it at the price you want to buy it for? And would it be profitable to you?
The situation I have here is different. We were buying these soybeans 200 cedis per bag. They didn't compare. That was their own price. We agreed on that price with them, in discussion with them. They agreed. And then some other people came in, offered them higher prices. Well, as human beings, they took the higher price. And then even when we match up with the higher price, and the person comes back and give them a higher price again. So it's greed which is driving them. It's not a matter of there's a competition and so somebody is offering higher price. No, they have enough price to be happy with. And for them, even as a normal human being, if you come back and give them higher price, they will leave the person they have an agreement with. Sometimes you even invest their own business. They will tell you have a higher price, so I'm going to send and give you your money you gave to me. It's that kind of attitude. They are insincere in their attitude. That's all. It's greed which is driving them to do all this.
Let me come to you, Mr. Opong, President of the Poultry Farmers Association. When I go through the list of the committee that has been put in place to efficiently manage and regulate the export of soya bean, I can't help but realize that you and your association are the ones who are greatly affected by this. That's poultry farmers. I would want to believe then that as a member of the committee, that whatever mandate you've been given is executed so that you and your members can, have ready access to the product, and then it doesn't translate into higher prices of poultry and poultry products. Why haven't we seen that? I'm still a bit surprised that the committee is still not doing what it's expected to do. Hello, Mr. Pong.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yes. What I'm saying is that in the first place, we are not in control of the committee. It is being controlled by the Ministry of Trade and Industry, headed by the director of the ministry. So they come out with what we have to do.
But you are affected. Sorry, sir.
Yes,
you are affected, and I understand. And you are a member of the committee. So I want to know, how much have you pushed to ensure that this work, because it beats my mind, you know, as a victim, if I may say, of this practice, and somebody who has been put in place together with other stakeholders to ensure that there is some form of proper regulation.
Yes.
You know, you find yourself playing a double role. But I would want to think that since you're a victim, you would have really pushed hard. Have you done that?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that the committee has a procedure. It started barely we went for about 2-3 meetings before the ban came. Even the ban, we were not consulted about it. It just came like that. So as Mr. Nyamiche was saying, our last meeting was about how we are going to sensitize the farmers and the public. So we were following the procedure as to how we will go about the whole thing. I hope you are getting me.
Yes, please, I am.
And we were waiting for our next meeting when we heard that, oh, there has been a ban. So you could see that the whole committee is being controlled by the Ministry of Trade and Industry and the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. And if anything, because as you rightly said, we are seriously affected, and it has almost collapsed the whole poultry industry. Okay, the government can come in because the government is injecting money in the production. If they want to have a free market, then it means that the government should withdraw the subsidies, and after production, they can sell it at any price that they want. In that case, buffer stock can go in to buy, and the subsidy can come through buffer stock.
Okay.
But if the government is giving subsidy on seeds, fertilizer, and other things, and you want to sell it at the price that you want, I don't think they are being fair. And it has seriously affected the poultry industry. Now, farms with about 300,000 capacity is having about 50,000 now. And even feeding them is a problem because they were not getting the inputs, the maize and the soya. There's another farm in Eastern region with 52,000 capacity. It's having only 700 birds. Farmers are selling their birds and they are not ready to restock their farm. So what we are discussing now is very serious, and I think the government should come in for an intervention that will revive the poultry industry, and for that matter, soya processing companies.
So what other intervention will work for you? Because there's this law that we are talking about, then a committee that has been set up to efficiently regulate the export and import of soya bean. Government representatives who are supposed to ensure that this law is even adhered to are at points where they should be checking this, but we still have the problem. What for you, beyond these interventions, will solve the problem?
Well, I think that we still need to see how best we can control, because now the institutions that are supposed to ensure the effectiveness of the ban, they are not doing it, and the same people are allowing these exports to be done. We have a little to do. It all boils on the government to be up and doing, as we have been saying, because if the government does not, if the government does not take immediate action on this issue, it means we are not going to have poultry farmers, we are not going to have soya processors, because nobody can work if you continue to be piling debts and, so we have a little to do, but we are praying to the government that they should come up with policies and the punishment to those who are in that act so that they can stop. If one or two people are punished on this issue, I think it can break or it can stop the others from doing that. Otherwise, it will be just only talking, but the action will not come.
We'll be wrapping up this conversation shortly, but let me go to Mr. Nyamiche. You are with Vesta Oil Limited, and you are president of AGI for the Middle Belt. So we've heard what government has done. We know government's input when it comes to the production of the soya bean. We know the impact of the actions of the farmers. There's job losses, there's a hike in poultry products, the hike of price in poultry products. Has government shown enough commitment to solving this issue? Because every day we are having conversations about the agri sector. It's either fertilizers being smuggled, now this is soya bean. We've heard interventions, the problem persists. Have we shown enough commitment to solving the problem? Do I still have Mr. Nyamiche on?
You hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes. What I'm saying is I'm not the least satisfied with whatever intervention government, under the Ministry of Trade or through the Ministry of Agri has done. I'm not the least satisfied. Why am I saying that? Like my colleague said, incentives have been given under the Funding for Food and Jobs to farmers in terms of fertilizer, other inputs, certified seeds, and all that. There are times we're even asked to be mediators, in getting the certified seeds for the farmers. Now these things we do, and if the crops come and they won't even sell to us, it's a pity. And let me do this. I mean, like VOA just said, Mr. Opon just said, if I'm to bring, I mean, for me, if what I think is fair is for me to be also allowed by some sort of incentive, for me to also be able to bring soya, if there's no soya for me to process, to bring soya from elsewhere like US or Brazil or Argentina to process locally. But the difficulty here is, or the discrepancy here is, because we want to see Planting for Food and Jobs survive or succeed, I'm not being allowed to bring in soya, or poultry farmer is not being allowed to bring in maize. We all need some sort of permit, or you pay duties at the port, making it more expensive to bring soya into the country. And if bringing soya into the country is becoming more expensive, and I'm not being able to also buy, or I'm not being supplied locally, then the government is not being fair to industries like us. Well, I mean, as AGI, we've been battling with this with Guta on this taxes issue. And why are we not also being given the same incentive for us to be able to even bring soya when we can't get some to buy locally? The solution is that if you can't sell to me locally, let me bring some in with some incentive for me to process. That's what I would say. Apart from that, government is not doing anything for processors. I think government hasn't done anything for us.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. P.C. Nyamiche is with Vesta Oil Mills Limited and president of AGI in the Middle Belt. So I'll take concluding comments from the other panelists on this discussion, and I just want to say that this greatly affects everybody. Okay, this is not only about the farmers who are going to shut down their farms. Look at all the people who will lose their jobs as a result of our inaction. Look at how much you'd have to pay for a single egg. Look at the farmers that are some of them giving away their birds because they don't have feed. It's a big problem on our hands, and we need to deal with this critically. And for those of you who have been put in place to deal with the problem, please Deal with the problem. You cannot let an entire country suffer because of your selfish, needs or for your own needs. So, Mr. Opong, in concluding this, as president of the Poultry Farmers Association, as it is currently, a crate of egg sells for about 40 Ghana cedis. In some places, you may get it at 38 or 36 cedis. Looking at our situation now, should we expect that the price will be stable or a possible increase in the near future?
Yes, we are even praying for the survival of the industry if we can even continue to produce eggs in the country. Because the situation is getting out of hands. Feed costs has increased tremendously. Maize that we were buying at 65 cedis is now 180, 185, an increment of 277%. And if it continues, I don't think any poultry farmer can produce. So it will be like we will have to import eggs in the country, which will not be very good. So as you rightly said, the government must take immediate action in the situation and see how best we can revamp the poultry industry.
We have to end it here. Victor Opong is president of the Poultry Farmers Association. Thank you for joining the program. We also had Christine Nyamiche with Vesta Oil Mills Limited, Thomas Bello, chairman of Soya Value Chain, and Gideon Abuaje, who is CEO of the Dragon Farming Limited. We've been seeing your comments on social media. We appreciate all of them. Differ James, you're saying that this situation is the main cause of high food inflation in the Upper West region. The smuggling of food out of the region is scaring our security personnel watch unconcerned, and that's a problem for our security officials, customs, police. Please, let's do the right thing.